You're listening to Wake Up with Word on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, Independent Black Media.
Independent Black Media, 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURD, WURDradio.com. Listen live anytime and log on. If you don't have that app, you know where to go. Download an app like you know. It is a few days away, September 7th. I should say Friday. Friday, Black Academia. Make sure you get your tickets today. For the tickets, you actually receive an opportunity to participate in the first Friday event. And make sure you understand this is part of the Word Speaks Black Academia. It's a Walter P. Lomax Jr. MD Speaker Series hosted at the Barnes Foundation. And you'll have a unique opportunity to convene the top African-American leaders from 4 area universities, including Brian Blake from Drexel University. He's the provost there. Joanne Epps, provost from Temple University. Phoebe Haddon, chancellor at Rutgers University, Camden. And Wendell Pritchett, provost at the University of Penn. They'll discuss their personal journeys and how their work is impacting Philadelphia's Black community. The panel, moderated by yours truly. When I say yours, I mean like your word host, not me. Yours truly, Brother Shamari. And it will precede the Barnes Foundation's first Friday event featuring a celebration of Afro-Brazilian culture with Project Capoeira. Purchase your tickets today. WURDradio.com or call 215-425-7875. 215-425-7875. Your tickets to this Friday's event, Black Academia panel, also includes your entry to the Barnes Foundation First Friday festivities. This event is sponsored by, let me not skip that part, Comcast, NBC Universal, Pico, Keystone First, Aetna, Moravia Health, and Rutgers Camden in collaboration with the Barnes Foundation. Get your tickets. That's a lot of reading. At this time, we have the Year of Du Bois, and today you can actually call in. So if you want to be one of the early callers, some of y'all don't mind getting on the line and doing the speakerphone thing. Now is your time. 215-634-8065. 215-634-8065. Dr. Anthony Montero is in studio. After we read, we go to the phone lines.
Thank you very much. Good to be back with you, Professor Smith.
Good to have you.
You know, today what I'm going to read is kind of a tribute to Aretha Louise Franklin, who transitioned this few weeks ago. And in 1903, William Edward Burghardt Du Bois publishes probably his most famous work entitled The Souls of Black Folk. 39 years later, the Queen of Soul is born in Memphis, Tennessee, and 115 years after the publication of The Souls of Black Folk, she makes her transition, her homecoming. I paid a lot of attention to her homegoing service, which was very interesting to say the least. But of all the speakers, I felt that the most significant, and I'll kind of explain it, were Smokey Robinson, who was very humble, very sincere, very gentle, a special kind of man who knew her from her childhood and his, Jesse Jackson, of course, and Reverend Barber from North Carolina. Jesse spoke of really the life world out of which Aretha came, the spiritual world out of which she came, and he talked about people such as the Blind Boys of Alabama, the Caravans, Sam Cooke, the Pilgrim Travelers, the Caravans, and other gospel groups. And then he spoke of Mahalia Jackson and Dinah Washington and Claire Ward from North Philadelphia. All of this was a part of the spiritual life world, the soul world that produced Aretha Franklin. And of course, William Barber from North Carolina was specifically magnificent, I thought, in his referencing Du Bois's Souls of Black Folk. And in particular, I like to read from the final chapter, chapter 14 of The Souls of Black Folk. The chapter is entitled The Sorrow Songs. And so I'll just read a bit from that. Little of beauty has America given the world, save the rude grandeur of God himself, which he stamped on her bosom. The human spirit in this new world has expressed itself in vigor and ingenuity rather than in beauty. And so by fateful chance, the Negro folk song, the rhythmic cry of the slave, stands today not simply as the sole American music, but the most beautiful expression of human experience born this side of the sea. It has been neglected. It has been and is half despised. And above all, it has been persistently mistaken and misunderstood. But notwithstanding, it still remains as the singular spiritual heritage of this nation and the greatest gift of the Negro people to it. And then Du Bois continues, the songs are indeed the shifting of time, of centuries. The music is far more ancient than the words, and in it we trace here and there signs of development. My grandfather's grandmother was seized by an evil Dutch slave trader 2 centuries ago, and coming to the valley of the Hudson and the Housatonic in western New York, black, little, and lithe, she shivered and shrank in the harsh north winds, looked longingly at the hills, and often crooned a pagan melody to the child between her knees. That song that she sang was passed on to my great-grandfather's children, and they to their children's children, and so 200 years it has traveled down to us, and we sing it to our children, knowing as little as our fathers what its words may mean, but knowing well the meaning of its music. And then he finally says, and I think this is the high point of the essay, through all the sorrow of the sorrow songs, there breathes a hope, a faith in the ultimate justice of things. The minor cadences of despair change often to triumph and calm confidence. Sometimes it is faith in life, sometimes a faith in death, sometimes assurance of boundless justice in some fair world beyond this one. But whichever it is, the meaning is always clear, that sometime, somewhere, men and women will judge men and women by their souls and not by their skins. Is such a hope justified? Do the sorrow songs sing true? The silently growing assumption of this age is that the probation of races is past, and that the so-called backward races of today are of proven inefficiency and not worth the saving. Such an assumption is the arrogance of white people, irreverent towards time and ignorant of the deeds of men. 1,000 years ago, such an assumption, easily possible, would have made it difficult for the Teutons, the white people of Europe, to prove his right to life. 2,000 years ago, such dogmatism, readily welcome, would have scouted the idea of blonde races ever leading civilization. So woefully unrecognized is sociological knowledge that the meaning of progress, the meaning of the swift and slow in human doing, and the limits of human perfectibility are veiled, unanswered sphinxes on the shores of science. And then Du Bois says, around us the history of the land has centered for 300 years. Out of the nation's heart we have called all that was best to throttle and subdue all that was worst. Fire and blood, prayer and sacrifice have billowed over this people, and they have found peace only in the altars of God, the God of right. Nor has our gift of the Spirit been merely passive. Actively, we have woven ourselves with the very warp and woof of this nation. We fought their battles, shared their sorrows, mingled our blood with theirs, and generation after generation have pleaded with a headstrong, careless people to despise not justice, mercy, and truth, lest the nation be smitten with a curse. Our song, our toil, our cheer, our warning have been given to this nation in blood brotherhood. Are not these gifts worth the giving? Is not this work and striving? Would America have been America without her Negro people? And then I would say, finally, would this nation be this nation without Aretha Franklin, without the souls of black folk?
Now, as promised, we're going to have an opportunity for you all to call in. We're going to take a quick break. And Brother Timothy, first up, keep holding on the line. If you want to talk about Du Bois with Dr. Anthony Montero, call now, 215-634-8065. Again, that's 215-634-8065 or 866-361-0900, 866-361-0900. As we count down this week to our Black Academia event, Let's Talk Books, good people. It is Aaron Smith, the rapping professor, senior rap professor, Queen Kuwaisa, super producer, put some respect on her name, and we thank you for waking up with word, y'all.
You're listening to Wake Up with Word on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Independent black media, 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURD, WURDradio.com. Listen live anytime and log on. If you don't have that app, you know where to go download an app. Like you know, it is Aaron Smith, the senior. I'm trying to be like Baron Holland from Bank of America. Salute to them for sponsoring that Word on Business segment. Gave me a new title just for today. And Queen Kuwaisa, see, I guess there's nothing more senior than Queen, so she doesn't need any adjustments. Just put some respect on her name at this time. Going to the phone lines, Year of Du Bois. First up, Brother Timothy, repping South Philly. Thank you for waking up with Word.
Yes, how are you, Professor Smith?
We're doing great.
Good. Dr. Montero, how are you, sir?
Fine, Timothy. How are you?
Good, and backed up by my girl, Kuwaisa.
Queen Kuwaisa.
That's good. Dr. Montero, let's talk about extraordinary men. The topic is Du Bois. You talked about that funeral of Aretha Franklin, the Queen, may the Queen live forever. In that pulpit with those ministers, there was one minister who didn't say anything at all. And I'm looking at the importance of extraordinary men. If we take Elijah Muhammad, some people would drown a brick and drown water for him. His followers would. Some people looked at him as being nothing. But he gave us the gift of Our Savior Has Arrived, Fallen America, Message to the Black Man, important books, How to Eat to Live. The other side of that is we have a brother by the name of Clarence 13X. The 5% is referred to him as the father. The poor rights teaches the 5% were concerned. And if you looked at them, they studied stuff that was self-styled wisdom that came from out of Elijah Muhammad's lessons, and they were the 1 to 10, the 1 to 20, the 1 to 40, the problem book.
Yes.
And the Muslims could learn from the 5% information, and as a result, the 5% could learn from their refinement. Well, I'll tell you this, that coming into a PWI and matriculated into, I had a course on the Harlem Renaissance. And I came to know about this person through you. And they were doing the book Soul of Black Folks, that one book. So I was in this PWI. The only two minorities is myself and the professor. There's 12 people in there. So that makes 10, and the professor and I make 12. So at that point, I was talking about Du Bois, and they was doing Soul of Black Folks. By that time, I had read Black Reconstruction. I read his book on Du Bois' book on John Brown. I had the Crisis and things of that nature. But the students there could not believe Du Bois did all this. So the professor said, it doesn't make a difference to him. He said, because guess what? They might have a test on it. So what backed it up was Louis Messiah's documentary that just came out. I'm saying to you that when a man like you puts that much work, life work into a man who's an extraordinary man, and we don't look at what is being said, then we shortchanged ourselves.
Right. And it's so very interesting that one of, I know you were talking about Minister Louis Farrakhan.
That's exactly
who
right.
sat on the stage and did not speak. And he brought, I thought, particular dignity to the entire event. I was very moved by his not stoicism, but his discipline and generosity. But one of his favorite books is The Souls of Black Folk, as is the case for Minister Rodney Muhammad here in Philadelphia. We regularly talk about Du Bois, and you're right. And you know, I just like to get back to this question, since you're talking about the homegoing service. You know, the question is, when our people gather in large groups, collectives, rituals like that, the question is, what goes unarticulated? What, as to use Du Bois's word, what are the spiritual strivings manifested in these events? And of course, when we talk about a person like an Aretha Franklin, what we're really talking about is the manifestation in physical form of the historic spiritual or soul strivings of a people. And that's what really made her great.
Dr. Mattel, I'm going to say this to you. And if Louis Farrakhan would have spoke, and what came out of his mouth, because we don't know totally what their relationship was.
Yeah,
Everybody
true.
talked about the relationship with him. Guess what? He is a violinist, a classical violinist by trade. We know as one of the most articulate speakers there are on the planet.
And let me just tell you this. I remember, if I might interrupt you, I remember a couple of decades ago in the 90s, when Minister Farrakhan came to Lincoln University, and I had the opportunity to share a meal with he and his family. And, you know, you mentioned him as a classical violinist and a calypso singer and a person who appreciates music. He spoke about that chapter in The Souls of Black Folk, the sorrow songs. So, you know, the circle is completed, so to speak.
So, Dr. Montero, I can't wait till his tape comes out when he speaks, because he's been not speaking at Muhammad Ali's funeral, and we know about their relationship later after the tape. I always knew they had a good connection. But I would like to know what he has to say. Remember, this topic is Du Bois and extraordinary men who we should always re-examine, because they have something important to say. And it's people like you that bring us to the truth. It's
Thank
the
you.
truth, Dr. Montero. It's the butt-naked truth that we look for.
Okay.
Brother Mo from North Philly, thank you for waking up with Word.
Yeah, good morning, bro.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mo.
Dr. Cliff, remember the sister called yesterday, Gloria from Sharon, and Brother Jacob told you about the signal when that stays with that FEMA.
Emergency broadcast, yes.
Yeah, and it's still getting this. There's another sound coming in. It'd be good if when FEMA come on, y'all can have a signal in your studio
To let us
that
know.
can alert y'all, and y'all could tell your guests to hold up for that episode. Every time we come into a good point, that come on, and there's another signal. It's on you. If you can listen to your show today with Dr. Montero, you can hear that beep, some other another
Emergency broadcast, yeah.
Yeah. And Dr. Montero,
Yes.
what I want to say dealing with that funeral. Now I'm speaking for myself, not the show or the station. When I seen that, I see the touch of the Jews all over again, trying to control and conduct our affairs. And some people say, well, that he wasn't on the program. But there's no way in hell you're going to tell me that he just happened to pop up at that funeral. I believe Sister Aretha wanted Minister Farrakhan to speak at a funeral for anybody. Because if you look at the whole era, just like going back to the night that Ali fought Joe Frazier for the first time, and when black people went out to them fights, they were dressed to the T. Aretha started getting into African garb, and then she started having a strict regimen dealing with her diet in the early 70s. She used to drink this honey, vinegar, and water. Even Mary Mason started using. A lot of black women started taking that diet. And she was wearing African-inspired garb and clothes. You know, she looked real regal and beautiful. So I know she wanted that brother to speak. Now, what would the W.E.B. Bois' position be with in dealing with them Jews and telling them to mind their business and stay out of our affairs? You can't go to a B'nai B'rith meeting or ADL meeting and tell them what to do. They tell you to mind your business. That you can't even give them a suggestion of clearly criticizing the state of Israel. You know,
if I could just interrupt you, Mo, it's a very interesting question. How with figures that do not rise to the level of Minister Farrakhan in the history of our struggle. They could speak, but he could not. It was obviously a gesture towards those who are not a part of our community, and this idea that we don't want to offend our, and I put quotes, our friends in the, and I put it quotes again, liberal community. I thought it was a huge mistake, but you know, Minister Farrakhan tells the story of when Mosque Number 7 in Harlem was attacked by the police, and you know, they stood them off, and as soon as Aretha Franklin heard about it, she came up to the mosque to offer her support to Minister Farrakhan. And this is back in the early 1970s. You know, we have to look at Aretha Franklin as a great freedom fighter, not just a singer. And I think that is what was missing from the entire homegoing service. They didn't want to get it too political, even though they mentioned that she offered to provide the bail for Angela Davis when she was arrested. She said, if it's $100,000, I'll give it. If it's $250,000, I'll give it. And, you know, her father said, well, I'm very concerned about what you're doing because now you're getting mixed up in radical left-wing politics. And Aretha Franklin said, I'm not getting involved in any kind of politics. Angela's a black woman. I'm a black woman. I've made my money from black people, and I will give it back to black people. I mean, you know, we have not yet assessed the full magnitude of her life. I think the greatest period of her political and musical life was the period approximately 1960 to around 1978. And if you think about it, that is the height of our struggle for freedom and the culture that came out of that. I think, you know, what we saw at the end of her life, and for most of the period after that, was her life in various periods of retreat, of resignation, and even depression. But that great period is still the signature of what we call Aretha Franklin.
Oh, yeah, because I look at it, and you're absolutely right, because like that period when I first started hearing in 67, all the music in there, it was in tune with the movement.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing, being a Muslim, I see a lot of time religion breeds ignorance. And we want to separate, well, I'm not into that because, brother, that's not what it. No, if you're a Muslim or Christian or whatever you're into, we got to fight for the liberation of our people.
That's right. And
that's
you
the
know,
bottom line.
And that reflects the two trends within all religions. You have a trend of resignation and submission to oppression, but the other trend is that of resistance. And that's the fire that Aretha Franklin manifested.
Mm-hmm. And one thing, and I'm going to end with this, one thing I say, well, Farrakhan had the hardest job of any minister, even harder than Malcolm, because he had to go into Harlem and rebuild Harlem after Malcolm was killed, because the Nation of Islam was being blamed for the murder of Malcolm. And our people didn't understand or know about the COINTEL program. Now, there's a book that came out in the 70s called Murder in the Harlem Mosque.
All right, we're going to stop it at the book because we got to sign off, Mo. And we're going to give B the last word real quick. B from Delaware, Joseph, you've been holding. We're going to let you take us out of here, B.
To all of you and the WURD family, I have to say that the power, Dr. Montero, of the souls of black folks was the power you brought us this morning. It will transcend anything. That patrol that Mo said 3 times during the reading, that is the power of the souls of black folks, the souls of black women. God bless you all. May the Creator bless you all. Please keep it coming. Sometime this day, a whole lot of folks who normally troll are really in a tizzy because you exhibited the power of the souls of black folks.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that.
Blackademia on Friday. Make sure you are there. Get your tickets now. It's 10 o'clock. Aaron Smith, Dr. Montero, Queen Kwesa. Thank you. Waking up with WURD, y'all.